So Casper is claiming that Ashes of Creation was never going to come out. This is actually very interesting to me because I'm still not 100% sure if Ashes of Creation was an elaborate scheme from the very beginning or just a mismanaged project. So I guess we have to wait until more information hit the surface, but for now let's check out his recent video. This is from 2 days ago.
The extent to which we were blind to all of this cannot be overstated. We have developers who could not make their rent and are living out of their cars right now. Families who have no insurance to pay for critical life-saving treatments and other medical expenses.
And I was like, okay, what else? And he's like, we're gonna be flying to Vegas. And I'm like, when are you flying to Vegas? I'm like, how old are you? And that's when he said he's 17.
Hello everyone, in this long overdue video, we are going to finally be listening to the most vulnerable party mired in all of this legal chaos surrounding the abrupt dissolution of Ashes of Creation and Intrepid Studios. So far in my videos, we've gained a glimpse into the investor side, we've heard from the volunteer moderators,
Yeah,
and
the
we've of
MLM
course
guy
heard from the player community that have been eagerly awaiting the next so-called World of Warcraft. Who we haven't heard from yet, and who we should really be listening to at this point, are those who actually worked for Intrepid Studios and its now elusive founder, Stephen Sharif, who recently filed a counter lawsuit. Artists...
Finally we hear from the developers, man. I've been waiting for this because I know from the people I actually seen on other people's comment section and also on mine that some people thought the developers were actually in cahoots with Steven, and I always thought that was very unlikely because why would the MLM guy tell other people on his scheme and just not take all the money for himself? It just sounded really weird to me, right? So I didn't believe the developers were in on that ruse, but unfortunately, as it seems, yeah, they lost their jobs, they lost their savings, they banked a lot on Ashes of Creation success, and Steven just dragged them to the abyss. It's insane, man. Like, truly, he did not care which life he ruins. It's just so sad to see. Truly, my heart does go to them. And I've seen one guy in my comment section telling me that he doesn't care because they made a garbage product. Brother, you need to understand. The developer is basically equal to a grunt, okay? Developers don't get to decide in which direction to take that game. There's a director for it. And you know who was in charge of that? Yeah, Steven, the MLM guy, the hardcore billionaire gamer. So, no surprise that the game went in such a bad direction. It's not their fault. They were just doing what they were told by their leader who pays their salary. So, you can't really put that blame on them.
Writers, programmers, engineers, community managers, and so many more are integral to the production of the games we often enjoy, and in the case of Ashes of Creation, it was no different despite the alleged fraudulent aspects of the project. As of the publication of this video, no employee have yet been compensated for PTO or paid their wages, and several lawsuits have been formed by employees due to violations of the Warren Act. What will follow are the statements and experiences shared with me by people who had interacted with Stephen Sharif long before Ashes of Creation formed, in addition to former employees who filled a wide range of positions at different points in time. Their identities have been verified and details have been corroborated that were previously unknown in the public sphere. I will of course not include things said off the record. While a couple former employees have stated they don't care if I share their identities, many more have requested anonymity. Ultimately, I've decided to make all former Intrepid employees anonymous for several reasons. First, due to ongoing lawsuits, anonymity is going to be a necessity, especially when sensitive topics are brought into the foray. Second, I feel this tension where things are going to be a little weird, where former developers associated with Intrepid Studios who had no idea what was going on about any of the allegations may be targeted because emotions are running high right now. And I think letting one or two people stick out in a sea of anonymous faces paints an even bigger target on them. Third, I don't want former staffers being affected by this video for their employment prospects in the future. As someone who's been personally threatened in the past by a game development corpo that the gaming industry is small, and me not staying put in my place would prevent future work, I don't want any possibility of that happening to people who are now stuck in a situation they never asked for and in an industry where being hired right now is seemingly impossible.
Yeah, and also the industry is extremely small. Like, game development it's a hassle, and it's very difficult to find a job in that field. So I appreciate him actually protecting their identities.
Employee A says, one thing we haven't seen mentioned anywhere yet was that Intrepid employed a personal chef who cooked for Steven and John 3 meals a day from their home.
No way that's true. No way. No way that's true. Wow. Brother, if this one real, holy, we're starting off strong. If Steven actually used company funds for a private chef to cook meals for him and his husband, oh man, I'm gonna fucking... That's crazy. That's crazy. You know what's so funny about this? I've actually seen a comment on Reddit that actually said this exact thing. Wow. And he said it like jokingly. And I laughed at it. I even mentioned it in one of my videos when I read the Reddit thread. Bro, is this actually real? No way! Oh, if you're gonna tell me he has a private chocolate fountain guy maintenance dude, wow, I'm gonna flip.
We were told a chef would eventually come into the office and cook free lunch and breakfast every day for the team. Needless to say, that never happened. We were told it was a permit issue with the building, having to put in a commercial kitchen, but it would eventually get fixed. While I was able to independently
What a
verify
coincidence.
the identity of the chef and also confirm that the chef does claim work at Intrepid Studios Incorporated as a full-time
Oh, it's real! Oh my god, it's actually real! He actually siphoned funds from the company to hire a private chef. That's nuts. Oh, the vanity. Oh my god, the hubris of this man. He's truly unhinged. Oh my god. Why wasn't this information leaked like 5 years ago? Are you kidding me? I would have had a field day with this one. Oh, that's so good. That is so good. Please, guys, spare no detail in telling me what you actually think about this. This is glorious. I'm so happy right now.
Culinary director for over 2 years. I was unable to reach out to the chef for any
Culinary
comments.
director.
Employee B declined to answer most questions, but mentioned and showed a screenshot of a layoff email that all the
Guys, that's why he needed those $200 Alpha Access keys. Yeah, surely. Damn, they surely went into development, right?
Intrepid Studios employees received from what some have said is a mysterious sender. The email reads, "Dear team, this is a difficult message to send, and we recognize how unsettling it may be to receive. Due to the company's current financial condition, Intrepid Studios is providing this notice pursuant to the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. This notice is being issued to all employees as a precautionary measure while the company evaluates next steps. At this time, no final decisions have been made regarding which positions may be impacted. A portion of the team may be asked to continue working as the company evaluates operational and financial alternatives. Others may be affected by a reduction in force if the company is unable to move forward in its current form. Employees who are impacted will be notified directly with additional information. With respect to compensation, payroll scheduled for February 1st, 2026 cannot be processed at this time due to the company's current financial condition. The company is reviewing its obligations and options and will share updates as soon as possible. Regarding benefits, company-sponsored health insurance coverage may be affected by changes in employment status. Information regarding benefit continuation options, including COBRA, is expected to be provided by the plan administrator early next week. That information may include important timing considerations, and we encourage you to review it carefully once received. Any available options, costs, and deadlines will be outlined directly by the plan administrator. We know this communication creates uncertainty and concern, especially for you and your families. While we are limited in what we can share or commit to at this time, we wanted to communicate as promptly and transparently as possible. We'll provide additional information as decisions are made and circumstances evolve. Thank you for the work, dedication, and care you have given to the studio and to Ashes of Creation. We recognize how difficult this moment is and do not take it lightly. For some additional context, the name of the sender is nihil dicit. These are words in Latin that means he says nothing. It's a common legal term as well that refers to a party that fails to respond to judicial summons. According to employee C, another email was sent out after this one from the same sender that spouted more of the typical HR assurances, and the sender elaborated that funds from Steam could have allowed the payroll to be processed had the funds suddenly not been held. Employee D says, "It was clear to me that Steven Sharif had never ran a business with employees before. He was extremely sensitive about anybody disagreeing with him publicly or even in lead developer meetings. He never seemed to be in office or available much of the time. He and his husband John would also disappear for weeks on end. An entire month could go by before anyone in the studio even heard from him. Nobody was allowed to do anything or make decisions without his blessing, under fear of termination. Steven was also very emotional. He cried when employees quit because he took it very personally. He told us he couldn't eat or sleep when employees quit."
What? What? That's so weird. Dude, this man is off his rocker. It's like he has no emotional regulation whatsoever. Like, can't he regulate himself? What the hell is going on with him? Hiring private chefs and like siphoning company funds, building up a scam and crying whenever someone leaves? What is that? Wow, dude, every time I hear new information about this guy, I just get more. I don't know, like, ugh. I just want to hurl. That is disgusting. What a weirdo. Jeez.
Employee declined an interview but said, "The extent
The
to which
hell?
we were blind to all of this cannot be overstated."
That
Employee
one's
F
true.
says, "It felt like a kid playing house. Steven was playing game dev. He had an air of arrogance as if he was a game developer, but in actuality, seemed to know nothing. He would ask and do things that made some people question him in private. Everyone would start working on one part of the game, and then resources would shift at the last moment from that one part of the game to an entirely new part.
And this one's actually makes sense to me. I've seen some comments about this too, because you can tell they were working on something and you waited for that system to be finished and the development update they used to do each month, and then they skipped to a completely different subject. So it just felt really off. Like, why aren't you finishing one thing and then moving to the other? You can't really sprawl yourself too much otherwise, because there's so many plates you can balance before one breaks. That you need to be careful with that. And yeah, clearly he had no idea what he was doing. He couldn't manage a project. Definitely not an MMORPG, which takes so much dedication and knowledge. And even if you're not knowledgeable, hire someone who is. And that way you can actually build a game. It's okay. You can hire someone to tell you what you can or can do, and you can operate within the field that he gave you. And that would be way more easy for you to actually process and create a good game. But no, he was so, like, his ego is so inflated. He thought he can actually hold everything because he had the funds, and that's it. And apparently that wasn't even the case too. Apparently all of this was funded by his MLM friends that he completely backstabbed, according to what we've seen so far. So I don't know what's going on with this man, bro. Like, I really don't. I have nothing to say. I don't know if it was a scheme, this guy's delusional, or maybe it can be just both.
He was the boss, so everyone sort of accepted it and went with the flow. He also was the kind of person that went to extreme lengths to make sure he was liked by everybody. I would say even at that time, he fooled a lot of people. Ashes of Creation Apocalypse was a bizarre decision. Everybody was confused by the new direction to a battle royale. I
Oh,
was
thank
certainly
you.
confused by his statements of it being a testing ground, and later some of us who had quit theorized Steven was trying to collect data for other projects.
Oh, I feel so vindicated right now. Oh my god. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Employee F. If by some chance you're watching this, I love you, brother. Thank you. I remember when I don't want to call it hate, but suspicion for Ashes of Creation started. It began when they did the Battle Royale thing. It began there because I thought to myself, why would you need a Battle Royale to test an MMORPG? Which system you were trying to test? And also, he constantly said, and I remember his defense line because I was watching the development update at the time. He said that they needed that information, and because they got it, they fixed a fundamental problem with the game that they wouldn't have caught otherwise. And I thought to myself at the time, how is that possible? Like, what did the Battle Royale do that you couldn't do beforehand? No, and they were just trying to cash in on the Battle Royale craze. Everyone knows that, and it's cringe. Like, there was nothing to test, and I knew that. I knew that, but everyone thought I was crazy. In my own mind, because nobody knew me back in the day, right? I haven't made any videos. That being said, nobody really knows me now, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I knew it was just an entire facade, and he was trying to just cash in on the Battle Royale craze. I knew it. I feel so vindicated right now. I'm glad to know that I was right.
He seemed like the kind of guy who had a finger in every honeypot. Employee G says, "It is true that payroll was missed a few times. Our payroll ran the 3rd and 17th each month. Steven did state he was trying his best to make payroll by liquidating his own crypto, and we never got our bonuses for the alpha launch. It's not true that any project leads resigned, contrary to what Steven's recent claims imply. Only a few directors resigned, which makes me very suspicious of the directors who did. As for the emails from Nihil Dikit, I don't recognize who their sender is, and I think whoever that is a creative asshole. Perhaps someone making a run to a country without an extradition treaty would send that. To me, that unknown sender is very unprofessional."
Wait, just a random question. Correct me if I'm wrong. When they say they didn't get paid, when they got paid on the 3rd and 17th of each month, like payroll thing, that's an American thing, right? Because, like, where I'm from, and from what I usually know, you just get paid once at the end of each month, and that's it. So I guess it's different over there. But I mean, like he skipped underpayment or something. I just don't believe. I don't believe it. Sorry, I just don't know it. I don't know the practice, how it works there. So if you know in the comments, let me know like what it means.
Also,
I'd
according
appreciate
to
that a lot.
counter lawsuit, Steven said he resigned around the 19th. He told us he resigned around the 28th. I believe these dates to be significant. Employee H says, a red flag to me that hinted I needed to start looking for other employment was when the news broke about the $850,000 in unpaid Sata Systems cloud fees. I just want to let the community, the players, know something. We were passionate about Ashes. We are just as devastated and disappointed as they are. We put our heart and souls into that game and never thought at any moment it was a scam. The fallout has been severe. We have developers who could not make their rent and are living out of their cars right now. Families who have no insurance to pay for critical life-saving treatments and other medical expenses. The devs have self-organized and created a help network, how to get food, legal help, mental help, job options, and so on. I've never seen anything like this before. Right now, at this very moment, there are 136 developers in this network. Over 200 were laid off. I also want to get
To be fair, I think that guy was kind of exaggerating because if you were banking your entire life saving on like Ashes of Creation, you done a poor job, okay? Like, I don't know, if you get fired and instantly you live out from your car, you've done some poor financial decisions. So, I couldn't really put, I'm not here defending Steven, but at the same time, like, brother, have some, you have fiscal responsibilities, okay? Like, or financial responsibilities, sorry, but I mean, come on, it's just kind of weird. Maybe they're exaggerating here, in my opinion.
The record straight. These are not unqualified developers. They are not out of touch with modern game technology. They made Ashes what it is now, despite all the bullshit we were forced into doing, like constant scope changes, grandiose pot fuel ideas dreamed up by Steven, dealing with this never-ending dog and pony shows we called the live streams. We truly had some incredible talent. It's unfair for the community to be so critical of the actual workers. These are devs from Infinity Ward, Blizzard, Gearbox, Sony, and other massive...
Yeah, you gave the worst example possible, brother. I'm not even gonna lie to you. The worst example you could have given. Like, these names have been dragged through the mud so many times, there's nothing left but a corpse. So, yeah, I wouldn't use these examples, but sure, okay.
AAA studios. We were very selective with our hires. Did we have average devs? Sure. So does every big studio. The truth is, if we knew from the beginning what the actual financial situation was, we could have scoped out an actual plan. We were told we had virtually unlimited resources. The Battle Royale was an epic waste of time and money and took a massive advantage of investors who were utterly clueless to game development. The reality was, Ashes was a multitude of games. It was a Navy game, a flight simulator, Battle Royale, Siege Mode game, Medieval Simulator, and more. Employee I told me I was not aware of any of the allegations. There were plenty of strange things. I knew we would need to do layoffs of our staff in December. It was strange that I never saw the directors, no formal presentations or demos. In January, Steven became almost unreachable. He was usually active on the project, and we would meet with him and the other senior staff daily. He explained he was negotiating with the board and was very busy. This carried on until the 28th of January, where he told us first he was going to resign. He explained it was his health and sketchy board mandates that he believed were illegal. As for the
Yeah, I remember he started that infinite untreatable cough story months before that, and yeah, I guess he kind of planned his escape, so yeah, we can see that things are in line here.
Existence of the board, I was not personally aware of a board existing until late October or maybe November. I used to brag in interviews that we were independent with no board of directors. It was a complete surprise to me. Steven would often play Magic the Gathering with the team on Thursdays after work and would order food for 10 to 15 developers. He was friendly, fun to work with, and treated us like a family. He was not a type A personality. On a professional level, he was more difficult and would often force us to change scope estimates, would introduce wild scope changes, or dream up extremely ambitious designs that were honestly just not feasible to do unless we had unlimited time and money. To many of us, Steven was a friend. We would tease him often that we do things the intrepid way, not the game dev way, so it made it insanely difficult to manage and ensure we hit deliverables. As for John, he was quiet. I've talked to him on multiple occasions. He is fairly religious, and you see he cares for Steven a lot. He really didn't do much at work. Like, nothing really. He didn't seem interested in game development. Our culture was family oriented, and we did work hard to remove toxic employees. We worked long hours, had potlucks, game nights, and would attend social meetings after work. Once the studio started to go more remote, much of this stopped. It was a very good studio to work for outside of the occasional hiccups with payroll, which I now understand was not quite that. To my knowledge, bonuses kept getting delayed for things like the alpha launch. It was enough that we pulled Steven aside to tell him we would start losing staff if we don't pay up soon. Employee J says, I, alongside others who quit, knew this day would come. At first, we would get paid on time. Slowly but surely though, payments began to come in late, and then not at all. The CFO John Moore would stop responding to inquiries and emails, dodging payroll questions. I personally went a month or more without payment at least once, and some of us had to confront John Moore on when we would get paid. Steven and John acted like everything was good and would cheerfully say that the pay would come. A lot of times, especially during in-person meetings at the workplace, there was a bizarre tension in the air as many people seemingly turned a blind eye to the questionable decisions Steven would make, and they probably turned a blind eye because they were convinced by Steven he was a billionaire gamer.
Oh god, not again. He actually used the term. He actually used Steven's self-proclaimed title, billionaire gamer. Truly a prodigy of lineage too. Amazing, doesn't it? It just amazes you.
Employees K
I love
and
that.
L tell me John Moore did seem to manage a lot of the financials for the company, along with stocking the office with basic supplies, snacks, and water. He seemed
Also stocking his embezzled treasure. Like, he was good at that, it seems like.
more like an office manager than a CFO. If there was a new expense that was needed, like software, we had to track John down and ask him to provide his credit card for it. We can confirm that there were outside accounting firms, along with an outside law firm. Steven later said John had a team of accountants working under him. Despite hiring an outside law firm, Steven would regularly ignore the advice of the attorneys, saying that the company didn't have to listen to them. Employee M states, Steven loved hanging out with people to game. They played Magic the Gathering regularly at the office, and we had poker nights in the cafeteria. Steven matched the poker prize pool once, as I recall. We had monthly potlucks organized by Margaret, and he usually attended. We even had movie watching parties for all of the employees at Sinopolis and their significant others and kids. Steven and John dressed as Santa and his elf at the holiday events and hitting
God, oh god, he tried everything to seem like the likable, charming guy out there. It's so cringe now that you know what he's truly like. It's just so bad because he did it to us. He did it to us as well. He tried to be the most likable personnel ever and telling us that, hey, we've been beaten as gamers with the old stick every single time, and he's the only one who's going to save us, and he's not gonna do this to us, and look what happened. Damn, it's crazy. To be honest, I'm kind of ashamed of myself for falling into it. At least I wisen up relatively fast, but so many people hadn't, and it just feels so bad, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. He dressed up as Santa, but he took your tree, and your mother as well.
out gifts to the kids who attended. They loved doing stuff like that. Steven also hosted D&D nights at his home sometimes. Steven sometimes took people to Las Vegas as well. I recall one time, they all came back into the office with COVID after a long weekend in Vegas. On another note, a Mr. Tom said he was a gaming friend of Steven's he knew from some game they played together. He was hired and a job was created for him, specifically because Steven wanted to hire his friend. When Tom went remote to be with his wife in a different state, Steven moved him to the QA team, where I heard he was apparently the highest paid person in QA by almost double. Employee N tells me, I personally didn't know anything about Intrepid's financial situation or about any talks.
I bet Pirate Software heard about this and they're like, damn, why wasn't it me? God damn it. Like, ugh.
Regarding
Cringe.
funding. Looking back, there were two things that felt like warning signs to me, though this is just my opinion. The first was the launch of the paid cosmetics store. There was a reasonable explanation for it. Starting work on the shop early would allow it to be fully tested before the game officially launched. Still, I couldn't help but wonder if we were short of money and needed microtransaction sales to stay afloat. The second warning sign was a sudden push to release the game in early access on Steam. I think this surprised almost everyone on the team. Around that time was also the first time I remember hearing about a board of directors, and it seemed like the Steam launch was something they wanted. My personal interpretation was that Steven, who we were told was funding Intrepid, was his own money, might have been running low on funds. I thought the Steam launch could have been an attempt to show the game's sales potential, raise more capital, and buy the company some time. I don't recall specific dates, but I believe we had payroll arrive a day or two late a couple of times during 2025. There was also the matter of the Alpha 2 launch bonuses that kept getting promised and then delayed. We were told at one point to expect them before Christmas, but then as we approached that week, they were delayed again. Upon returning to work in January, we were promised they would be in the February 3rd paychecks, but we know how that turned out. I personally never heard anything about Steven liquidating crypto. Doesn't mean he didn't, but I didn't know about it. Employee O tells me Steven was often a lot like the guy in the live streams. If live stream Steven was a 10 out of 10 positivity and energy, I'd say that day-to-day Steven was often about an 8 out of 10 of the same. He certainly had a serious side that would come out if he didn't like the way something was going, but I think he wanted Ashes to be great. As for John Moore, I never met him, so I can't say anything about him. I wasn't aware of a board of directors existing until we started on the Steam Early Access launch, and even then, we didn't really get any info other than, paraphrasing here, make sure this launches and let Steven and company worry about the money stuff. We'll give everyone more info when the time is right. Nothing specifically about the board ever came up again from what I recall until Steven's resignation message that we received on Friday, January 30th.
So Steven played it until the very end. He just tried to put the nice guy act, and he's still trying to do it now, by the way. I've actually seen some Discord messages from him, which is, to me, so crazy that he's still trying to run his Discord server and actually bans people for speaking up against him. That is wild beyond belief, but at the same time, the man hubris is so big. Like, man, he only rivals Icarus, okay? That's his only opponent, and he might take him over. I'm not gonna lie, he might win that battle, but I guess only prison will tell. Only time will tell, sorry. I don't know what happened to me there, but yeah, it's getting out of hand. I mean, more and more stuff that we hear about him, I just find him to be more dislikable. To be honest, I think he's reaching pirate software level, but at least he was not faking the voice, so that's one point to him.
As for the person called Nihil Dikit who sent the layoff notice via email, it's clearly not a real name. I wondered if it was an Intrepid employee who was told to send the emails and chose to use a fake name as a quiet protest. If it actually came from someone on the board, that seems like a strange decision. There may have been a few other emails from the same sender. Personally, I think the situation should have been handled differently. I would have preferred that the board or someone representing them spoke to us directly in person. Overall, I don't think it was handled well. Employee P states to me, most employees, except maybe a small group close to Steven, and I don't think Margaret was part of that group, believed Intrepid was a passion project. We thought Steven was paying for it himself because he loved ARPGs and had enough money to make it happen. We were told many times that Intrepid was special because Steven didn't answer to investors. There was supposedly no board pushing us in other directions. The focus was simply to make the best game possible. The team fully believed this. We'd never had investor milestone reviews or flashy presentations for investors. The only people we felt accountable to were the community. If you followed Ashes of Creation's development, you know live stream demos and future roadmaps were a big part of that.
And there we go. And there we go. He just said it. So he just said it. Like 80 to 90% of the developers weren't in on it. So it just goes to show that you don't need to be mad instantly. You need to kind of wait for actual people that were involved with Intrepid Studios to speak up, and then we can, hear the truth. It was just so obvious that the developers weren't in on it. It can be an elaborate scheme to include 250 people. It just doesn't make any sense, right? But also at the same time, like what he said there, we thought Steven was paying for it himself. Now, this is, I guess it's kind of wishful thinking from the developers, but anyone with sensible thought, like, you can tell that MMORPGs are incredibly difficult to bankroll, okay? You cannot expect one person to do it unless he's filthy rich, and I'm not even talking Steven real estate king billionaire gamer level. I mean like an actual billionaire, okay? Like MMOs today especially takes a lot of money to actually create. So having, let's say, even $50 million is not enough. You need way more than that. Unless like everyone who works on the project is willing to take a pay cut, which I don't think would happen. But yeah, it's extremely difficult process and it costs a lot of money. And while Steven had this insane spending habit, it seems like, he just didn't know where he was going, which costed them way more money than initially they needed for.
Followed Ashes of Creation's development.
So it is what it is, man. It's sad, but
roadmaps were a big part of that. At the time,
I should have
told
noticed.
myself those live streams were mainly mainly for Steven, to show what players liked, what they didn't, and to help all of us make a better game. Now, I'm not so
No, they were for Steven. They were for his ego. He wanted people to look at what he was doing and just go, oh, you're the king, it's progressing so well. And to be fair, it worked until the very end. So, you know what? It is what it is, man. I said the thing.
If Steven wasn't fully funding development himself and was instead raising money along the way, then those live streams could also have been used to attract more funding. I believe Steven really does love ARPGs and wanted to create an MMO that would excite that audience and bring in new players. I don't think Ashes of Creation started as a scam. I believe he truly intended to launch the game. I also note that the team took feedback seriously from the live streams, the PTR, bug reports, the forums, Discord, and Reddit. We had people tracking major issues every day to make sure they were seen. The team honestly believed we were building momentum toward a real launch. The game wasn't at our quality bar yet, but we had plans to get there.
The problem wasn't bugs and glitches. The problem was the game itself. It had no direction. And of course, it's Steven's fault. Obviously, I'm not putting it on the developers. But yeah, the game just seemed to be progressing to oblivion. And I've seen that coming. I've seen the writings on the wall. Because I used to watch the developer updates every single month. I used to wait for them constantly. It was literally a highlight of the month for me. And whenever I saw that progress was being stopped to a halt, I started to smell something fishy was going on, right? So I dug in a little bit deeper. I looked more into Steven past, and I decided maybe this wasn't a worthy project to follow on. So I just kind of put it on the back burner. And when stuff started picking up, when the game released to like early alpha, that's when I started making more videos about it because it truly interests me in like why the hell did I do that? And now we know. So at the end of the day, it's just very sad, but anyone with a sensible thought could like see it coming from a mile away. You just need to look at the signs. It was very clear. How can you put a game 10 years in development and you don't have classes yet? And I mean, you do have classes, I guess, but they're so bare bones. It doesn't make any sense. I've seen developer projects that were made like by one person, okay? Solo developer projects on Unity or Unreal Engine 4 at the time. And they were 10 times better than Ashes of Creation. So how can you have a fully fledged developer crew working on this game and you don't make it out there? It doesn't make any sense.
What happened at the end and why is still unclear to me. Why blow it all up so near to the finish line? I don't know how this will resolve or how long it may take to do so.
No, because you were way over the finish line. That's the problem. You thought the finish line was right in front of you. It wasn't. It was way behind your brother. The finish line was due over ago, like ages ago. It was over, and you just didn't know it because he kept on struggling and he kept on crawling on the field, and you just seen it after it exploded, and there was nowhere to go. It was over. The race was over. Everyone went home. You're the only one there, staring at the field. Ah, man, it's such a damn shame realizing that nowadays. I mean, it's so frustrating. For us, it's just like kind of hilarious because we've seen it coming, but for the developers, they didn't even know. It's just sad, man. It's just sad to see.
But I do know that a lot of hardworking people were treated unfairly. I'm also really disappointed for the Ashes community. You shared this journey with us. You spent time in our world that you could have spent elsewhere. You spent money to support us when you could have spent that money elsewhere. You shared your ideas and criticisms with us to help make a better game for everyone when you could have not bothered. But you cared. You dreamt the same dream we all did. I wish.
Nope, you are wrong. You are wrong. You had a dream of making the best MMORPG out there. A noble thought. 100%. But Steven had something completely different in mind. Steven wanted to be the savior of the MMORPG genre. Okay? It may sound similar. It's two completely different things. One is all about serving the community, and the other one is all about vanity. That's it. They're completely two different things. Understand that.
We have been able to come true for all of you, and I know the rest of the development team feels the same. Employee Q shares with me, all the employees, every single one of them, are passionate gamers. Many are industry veterans and experts in their fields. None of them deserve what happened to them, and to be terminated without warning or a final paycheck And none are responsible for this mess? We all drank the Kool-Aid and thought we were making the next big cool thing. At this point in our conversation, Employee O shows me an image. We were promised everything under the sun for our dedication and
What?
loyalty. Steven thought he could buy loyalty by promising 300% bonuses annually.
Wait, let's read this. Bonus breakdown, launch scenarios and projections. Bonus annual target 10%, launch 10%. Okay, damn, that's the bonus. Alphas and beta 5%. So I guess from all funds, like, oh yeah, and this is the anticipated amounts. Jesus, what the heck? Man, these are some fat bonuses. Holy. Okay, and junior, mid, senior, lead, of course, of course. Damn, these are some fat stacks. Okay, so big promises, big promises.
He only rented it short term. This chart was shared at a town hall meeting in Intrepid where they explained how bonuses would work post-game launch. A few other people can confirm this. Employee R tells me, I was not aware of any bona fide allegations, but it was clear that things didn't add up if you opened your eyes and used your brain. We know there was a list of vendors and contractors whose payments were late or never made. Some of us saw this list ourselves, and it always felt like Steven and John were deflecting one external crisis after another. He would describe on his live streams the state of certain features in the game being far more developed than they actually were. Rather than show gameplay, he'd rant about plans and ideas. In the early days, even the Apocalypse effort claimed it was strictly a testing ground for Ashes, and the team spent something like 2 or 3 months working on it. Bullshit. Everyone there knew damn well that was closer to a year, maybe more, on development of nothing but Apocalypse, which, by the way, was a completely separate Unreal project than Ashes. He's full of shit.
Wow. Okay, that's a bomb. So the entire Apocalypse shenaniganry wasn't even related to Ashes. It was just a completely different game. God, imagine if Steven went to his husband and was like, John, I have a plan. Let's make a battle royale in Tahiti. Well, I don't know. Maybe a few of you would get that reference, but I had to do it.
At work, Steven was more concerned with power versus productivity and collaboration. He has absolutely zero leadership skills, like none. He's focused on control, controlling timing, decisions, money, and carefully crafted his words, especially when live streaming. Steven relied on his charm, but I don't think he understands how transparent he is as a person. In general, he strikes me as someone who's used to dealing with unsophisticated or uneducated people. John was rarely at the studio, and when he was, I never heard him say a single word. He was probably preoccupied signing in and out of his different bank accounts.
Yeah, so anyone who mentions anything about John just said that he didn't know anything about him. Like, this man was a ghost. So he literally was existing physically inside of the company, but he never showed up. Or maybe he just maybe he just haunted the halls of Intrepid Studios to just kind of an urban legend. Maybe people made it up as how do you say it? As a collective thought. Maybe he came into life, right? It's one of those ghost stories. Like, who knows? It's like if you say Steven in front of your mirror 3 times, your wallet disappears. Maybe something like that.
In my opinion, Intrepid was doomed from the start because Steven has control issues, controlling the narrative, decision-making, timing, and direction. He felt he knew best at all times, even though he had a room full of actual game developers. This created a culture of apathy, complacency, and uninspired busy work for many. Did many of these developers love and wanted to make a game? Yes, of course. Were there a considerable amount of developers there who thought Intrepid and Steven was a complete joke? Most definitely. Still had to smile and say, that's great, Steven. Sounds like a plan.
Obey your king. You bent the knee. It is what it is. I get it. I mean, at the end of the day, he's the guy who's in charge. You have to listen. You have to make ends meet, and he's the guy's providing. I understand. That is fair. But at the same time, why in God's name did you think that Steven would ever listen to a competent developer? This man is full of hubris. That's all he is. Sorry. And I mean, I guess we couldn't see it from our end, but clearly, as we've seen, more and more developers thought that way. They were just silent about it because at the end of the day, they believed in the project and they really wanted to succeed. So, yeah, I mean, it's just sad. But I'm glad to see there's a consensus here. I don't think every single developer just spoke with like everyone at Intrepid Studios and they made up a story together. No, I think these are actually valid and it seems truthful to me.
I was never aware of the existence of a board, but I also never believed.
Basically, I'm just saying that I'm glad there's a consensus here.
believe Steven when he said he's funding the project by himself. He wasted too much time, resources, and pivoted too often for that to make any sense. Who the hell says, hey, you know what would be fun? How about I spend 10 years dumping my own money into a project that hasn't shipped and plays like it's been in development for 2 years? There had to be a catch, and believe me when I tell you, every last person in that studio knew it didn't make sense. I honestly thought the entire company was a ploy to gather player data they can sell or use in his next MLM.
Dude, employee R? Change your name to employee W. Holy, he's dropping some fat ass bombs. Jesus, that is good. That is good. Finally. Finally, man, all of the developers until now have been very soft on Steven. But this guy, oh, this guy, man, he knows. He knew. He knew. He's one of us.
Scheme or something. I don't believe he ever actually wanted to ship a game. Instead, I think one day he had an epiphany where he could use his experience from playing games to conjure up as much money as possible to make the biggest game ever. He knew all the buzzwords, laid the charm on thick, and it feels like his main objective was to keep kicking the can down the road as far as possible until one day, poof, gone. Who the hell has Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3, Beta 1, Beta 2?
Oh, finally! This guy, oh, this guy's a legend. Holy, this guy's, oh, wow. He deserves a standing ovation after this one. That's the statement of the year. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you. And it's so funny because back in the day, so many Ashes defenders that were rabid in my comment section have told me, like, who cares? It's Alpha 1, Alpha 2. There's a lot of things to test. Why no MMORPG done that before? Like, why do you think that? Oh my God, these weirdos, they were in my comment section dislike bombing every one of my videos when I said there were too many milestones for an MMORPG. Why do you need so many? And why did you need so many expensive keys to gain access to them? You need to pay people to test your game. It doesn't need to be the other way around. It doesn't make any sense. And also, if you want people from the outside to just test your game, then hand out keys for free. Or give it to people from the Discord server that you trust. It's that simple. You don't need to sell $200, $300 packages with alpha early access. That was the dumbest thing ever.
Is just making fake milestones up as he goes. I hope the community members and the folks who put money into this project will think twice about making purchases based on promises in the future. The testimonies of the
He's warning you about Kickstarter projects, by the way.
former employees make it clear that they were at
Damn, that's a nice house. Holy, that is, bro. This entire room in the picture right here is where I live. That's crazy. What in God's name is that? Like, look at that. Wow, what is that? Oh my God, like chandeliers and stuff. Man, this guy, how did we ever trusted him? He needs to be, if he was a true gamer, he needs to have rats in the ceiling, or at the very least, cockroaches everywhere, right? Like cans of soda, anything that kind of resemble Asmongold, except for the balding. I can, you can skip on that part, but, or maybe the rotting teeth. But you need to have one of these. Right? Like, no, this house is way too clean, way too big. I don't know. It's not for me, man. It's not for me.
bare minimum a lot of red flags.
I'm a WoW
and
player.
perhaps those
We
red
don't do
flags
that.
were glossed over by the many reassurances of the head honcho Stephen Sharif, who seemed to have no problem not being entirely transparent in regards to the finances of the company with those who he called his work family. It was a bit jarring to talk to former developers who were clearly not at fault for whatever is now happening with Intrepid, and it was especially hard to listen to and read all of the things happening with some of the former Intrepid workers who reached out to me about the circumstances they are now stranded in, including those who had relocated to California of all places for a job that has now vanished out of nowhere. I wanted to learn more about the psychology of the alleged bizarre decisions made by someone who has still refused to accept my repeated requests for an interview in the wake of the news we broke recently and the counter lawsuit filed, painting Stephen as the victim and the valiant defender. On one hand, we have someone who seemed very transparent and passionate about the Dream MMO. On the other, we have someone who was incredibly shady, had a penchant for needing to be admired, respected, or at minimum, liked.
By the way, I'm gonna pause you for a second because I don't know if you guys seen this or not. Personally, I have because I've been following up on this. Basically, Steven said not too long ago that his maximum goal is his goal is maximum accountability. I'm glad to see Jason commenting. He said it to Casper himself on his Twitch stream, I believe. And basically said, I'm glad that Jason is speaking up against that and saying what he thinks. Jason is the another MLM investor that was friends with Steven's father, I think, or mother maybe. He knew Steven through his parents, if I'm not mistaken, and basically invested a lot of money into Ashes of Creation, and he's not going to see any of it. Okay, he said it was a very stupid thing to do, but he just spilled the beans. He spoke anything he possibly could have said about Steven and the company and what went on behind the scenes, and Steven is just trying to play it off as like, oh, it's nothing, it's okay, it's fine, I can't wait for the truth to be revealed. I don't know what this man is on about. I really don't think that until he has some jail time, he would learn. And maybe even after that, he won't. I think he needs to be sued 100%, and I really hope that he would go to prison. But unfortunately, rich people don't go to prison. It's for us poor people.
By those he surrounded himself with. A leader, if allegations from TFE Games holding lawsuit and the text messages are to be believed, who embezzled funds and committed tax fraud with a project that rallied so many under its banner. Luckily, two individuals reached out to me in the olden days of the MMO
I've seen
ARPG,
it.
one of whom who had interacted with Stephen Sharif years and years ago. Wyford, an accountant now who used to work in private equity, and the former guildmaster of Europa Network, and his guildmate V, who was willing to corroborate on his former guildmaster's testimony about their experiences with Stephen Sharif, the MMO player, before he had become an MMO maker. So he was paying real money to these people.
Supposedly.
I see.
And I contacted this guy. What's the name of the guild? Blackfire Mercs?
Yeah, I believe it was Blackfire Mercs. So, like in Arcade, it was typical for, because you did these trade runs. So, you would take trade packs and you'd be open to PvP. So it was typical to either hire for in-game money, like Merc guilds, to kind of protect you. That's kind of what I thought the White Order was doing, hiring with in-game money, Blackfire Mercs. Later, lo and behold, Wyford kind of told us that, yeah, no, he offered this guy real money.
He's 17 years old,
Mhm.
and he's telling me this guy's paying him. I'm like, has he paid you? And he's like, not yet. I'm like, when did he tell you this? 3 weeks
Okay.
ago. And I was like, okay, what else? And he's like, we're gonna be flying to Vegas. And I'm like, when are you flying to Vegas? I'm like, how old are you? And that's when he said he's 17. I'm like, he's talking down to everybody else. How about during our engagement, you kind of roll with us, pretend that we're gonna fight each other, and then we'll just circle around his galleon and we'll beat the shit out of him. So Steve whispers me in game, and he's like, hey, are you free? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, can you jump on my ventrilo? So he gives me and my first encounter, kind of like in those notes that I sent you, I shit you not, but he goes like on top of his long, he's like, Marines, stand down. And I'm like, what the fuck? And he calls everybody on his ventrilo, and you can, if you ever get anybody from White Order, they will confirm that he refers to all his members as Marines. And he LARPs. He only wanted 2 people, but then he wouldn't let them speak. It would just be him talking. And he referenced that he wanted the best guild leaders and the best content creators on his White Order team, I guess, because he wanted to build something. I'm gonna get you $100 a week. I'm gonna fly you to Vegas. We have something big coming on. And he goes like, "Why are you working a 9 to 5 when you literally did what you just did?" I'm like, "What did I do? We just PvP. That's it." And he's like, "Yeah, man, but you got someone to turn on us." And those guys were already working for us. We were gonna pay them. One, I'm in school. I'm not working a 9 to 5. Like, I don't know what you want from me. Like, what is it that you want out of this? And he's like, I want you to disband your guild, and I want you to come to our side and bring your best players. So I said, well, it's not gonna happen. And it's like I told you from the beginning, that it's like I'm just an ordinary person. Like I'm not into that min-maxing scene.
I remember being on our channel, and Wyford jumped into the Blackfire Mercs channel, and everyone was like, okay, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And then all of a sudden, Wyford told our guild, they were like, all right, guys, attack White Order. And we, honestly, I was hesitant. I was like, okay, well, they outnumber us. And then all of a sudden, Blackfire Mercs, they turned White Order, and we obviously won the battle and everything like that. But later on, when Whiteford came back and told us that, yeah, he just offered me to leave you guys, bring the best of you, and he was going to pay me $100 a week and fly me to Vegas with all his other officers. It was, to me and a couple of the other guildies at the time, I'm thinking 11 plus years ago, so excuse my memory. But we were first speechless, and then second, we were just kind of making fun of it.
After Wyford refused Stephen's offer and told him rather bluntly that Stephen could improve his character in life to gain the trust of others, Stephen kicked
Base. Holy shit, that was base response. But yeah, I mean, we can kind of verify this information because I've reacted to a video made by Neckrage, which was a Lineage 2 player. He might have played Arcade 2, I don't really remember, but he was a hardcore Lineage 2 player as far as I remember, and Steven offered him 200 buckaroos per week to join his guild, and he refused. Because he was a guild leader, he felt like he had a responsibility towards his people, and he just enjoyed his community, so he didn't want to do that. He saved those messages, though, and lo and behold, a few years later, man, they were as relevant as that day onward. And Steven tried to convince him using the words, "I'm a billionaire gamer." So keep that in mind, it's a reoccurring theme.
Wyford mid-sentence and called Wyford a bundle of sticks, which would later puzzle Wyford when he found out Stephen had a husband.
Anytime he saw me, he would call me a peasant. He would call me poor. He would call me a lot of shit. Right? It's like,
wow.
I don't fucking care.
Wyford and B mentioned,
bro, that's just lame. You're gonna offer someone money to actually just become part of your guild, and when they refuse because they actually have some integrity, you're gonna call them poor. What are you, some kid running around with his dolls? Like his toys? What is this? Dude, this guy. Oh my god. And now someone is gonna defend it wait. Someone gonna defend Steven at the comments saying, oh, he was just a kid back in the day, right? He was young. Like, no, bro. He was like, what? 20 something? That's not that young. Like, nobody acts this way. It was late 20s too, right? So nobody acts like that. Nobody. Maybe he was even in his 30s. I'm not really sure, so I don't want to say like blank statements here. Either way, it's cringe. Who would behave like that in that age? That's just ridiculous.
In passing, another YouTuber who may have had a similar experience to theirs called Neckrage, who was in the guild called Orenthal, and screenshots from Neckrage's YouTube channel say the following. Steven SoCal on May 22nd, 2014
This is what we watched.
Says, "What's up, buddy? I heard you are the top player in ARPGs. I checked out some of your videos and you seem like you know what you are doing. I'll get down to the point. I am a billionaire gamer. I don't mean to sound conceited, but it is what it is. I want to sponsor you to play for me. I'll pay you $100 a week if you join my guild as one of my officers.
It was $100. I'm sorry. Okay, it wasn't 200.
I'll also fly you across the world for clan LAN parties and events and vacations, 5-star resorts, private jets, all expenses paid. In addition, I'll give you bonuses based on performance and contributions in-game to my character. I come from Lineage 2. I love Arcade so far."
Oh, so it was an Arcade. Okay, my bad. He said he was from Lineage 2. Okay, that's fair. Well, you know what? You're gonna give some credit to Steven. You gotta give him credit. At least he's consistent. Everyone is getting $100. 100 doubloons. It's fair. They're not offering more to different people. I respect that. And a trip to Vegas. That's great.
And I am moving my guild of 200 hardcore PvPers here. If you're interested in this idea, I can give you some particulars in Ventrilo. Let me know. Steven. Neckrage responds, "Hey Steven, thank you so very much for your donation and your offer. I'm sorry to say that although the offer is enticing, I'm gonna have to turn it down. I'm far too dedicated to my guild. They are like a family to me. I wish you the best, and if I could help you in any way without having to leave my guild, I would be happy to do so." Not taking no for an answer, the same day, Steven says,
"Oh, no, wait, I was right. Okay, so I was right. I remember that.
One last
He offered him a pay raise.
At lunch, bring your guild into the fold. You will hold a leadership position within the clan, but answer to me as the clan leader. You will serve as my officer and yet continue to lead your people."
Bro, doesn't it sound exactly like someone who tried to recruit you into the dark side would do? Right? It sounds like a message you would get from an orc. And not the good ones. Like the ones without the, I don't know. Like, it's just weird. It's just such a weird message Now even orcs won't do that. I actually love orcs. Well, it depends from which universe, right? Maybe from the Tolkien one, but not from WoW. Definitely not from WoW. They would just mug Gorov Steven and he would lose because he's an actual incompetent fool.
I will pay
In my opinion.
you $200 a week and you'll come on trips, etc. We have several major achievements that we want to be first in NA and EU live servers to achieve. Mansion, Black Pearl, Castle, Nation. Consider this. You won't find it from anyone else. Smiley winky face. Neckrage again responds, "It's really flattering, Steven, but I am going to have to pass on the offer. I don't do what I do for money. I do it for my family, my guild.
Based.
I wish you the best of luck in all that you do.
Actual
to gain a
Giga
better
Chad.
understanding of what happened behind the scenes from another angle, I also reached out to iDream Sky, a Chinese publisher that has been marked as an important subject in text messages shared with us by Jason Karamanis, an early Ashes of Creation investor. Stephen Sharif had purportedly signed a contract with iDream Sky, securing $60 million in funding over a 5-year period for a 35% revenue share, even taking pictures with iDream Sky representatives at the signing itself. That deal apparently fell through at some point, with Steven concluding that the Chinese are the absolute most dogshit culture and people I've ever experienced.
What?
iDream Sky, as of the publication of this video, has not responded
So he was racist on top of everything else? Damn, that's crazy.
back with any comments. Other investors, such as Odin in his video, who had met with John Moore and a couple others at Intrepid Studios, would also reach out to me as they were supposed to become investors into Intrepid Studios.
Hey Nefas, how's it going, man? Yeah, I personally look for them. Me being a San Diego resident and part of the Chamber of Commerce in San Diego, there was a talk about this company looking for a new round of investors this upcoming May. And through one of those people that had the information, I was given the physical address of the location for the San Diego studio, which originally, and if you look on Google, was listed as a different place. So for the people that were looking for the information on Google, they would have never found the studio because it was incorrectly listed there. The information was given to me directly from this gentleman. I went to visit the location early January, where one of the Intrepid employees that was out doing a personal transaction mentioned that they were on a closed campus and that only John and Marcus were available at the time, that they were running a skeleton crew, and this was on a midday on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. A Wednesday, yeah, it was a Wednesday. So around 1, 2 p.m., nobody was on the studio. Very skeletal limited crew, and this was about a week before the entire release of Steven stepping down happened. So since I've been going back, we were in talks with my private equity group to come in and invest into the company. I've invested into other projects before. So through that process, because of the way that California works, especially when you're on a group for investors, there is a 30-day cool-off period for investment trustee transfers to companies so that we can get documents signed, legal, and then our attorneys can make sure that the contracts are completely filed. And in that period, it's when the statement was made of the company closing down, Steven completely stepping down as CEO and lead director or whatever he was at the end. And so I was saved by that cool off period. From what I was told and given in correspondence, the next round of investors was slated to come out sometime in May. And so I was looking to invest into that. And as any investor would do, I went to do my due diligence, check out the studio itself. I am a gamer, first and
Wait, did the video get
foremost,
stuck?
and my
No.
business, which you can look it up, leadersmakeleaders.org, um, doesn't really invest into games. This was just one of those things that I really believed in and was looking into for a project that I wanted to follow. And I said, well, before I get money into this company, let me go look at the studio. Let me go find out.
Smart
That was
man.
it. I kind of left it at that. And again, 2 weeks after my initial visit to Intrepid, then the release of the statement was made that the game was no longer going to be, or not the game, but that the studio was no longer going to be run by Steven, and therefore everything was collapsing. A lot of the investment rounds and people that they brought in were all word of mouth. As I said, we have a pretty close knit circle in the San Diego business realm. Chamber of Commerce likes to disseminate information directly. So there was just a conversation that happened about potential investments into companies that were San Diego based, and Intrepid was one of those.
Jason Karamanis also put me in contact with Tim Sharif after claiming on one of my live streams that Stephen Sharif had also scammed Tim, his older brother and owner of 310 Nutrition. To give some
Wow.
context, 310 Nutrition was discovered in the first couple of days by many disgruntled Ashes players to have listed Ashes of Creation merchandise. Many thought Tim Sharif was in on the alleged fraud by his brother Stephen, and that the merchandise was moved as assets to his brother for safeguarding. However, Jason claims that Stephen hoodwinked his own brother, signing a contract and getting money for the merchandise. I reached
Wow.
out to Tim after being
Dude, that would be next level. Scamming your own family is actually something different. That requires some serious audacity. Okay? That is on a completely different level. I can't even process that.
connected to him for a statement, but Tim politely declined giving a statement at this time. Just like with the employees, I will not be including things said off the record with Tim. I hope this video is taken just as seriously as the first video I made that broke the dam and released the recent deluge of information. Oftentimes, not even just in the MMO space, but the entire gaming industry, serious workers' rights violations, literal slavery outside the West, and mass layoffs tend to just be glossed over in favor of extravagant breads and circuses that oftentimes do not mention where the bread and entertainers actually come from. I hope that the statements and responses from the former developers and workers of Intrepid Studios finally lays to bed the unwarranted claims without proof of how those in the trenches were involved in the serious allegations leveled against Stephen Sharif or the investors. I think the first priority should be the employees who need to get what they are owed so they can continue their survival like the rest of us and also move on from this insane chapter of their careers and lives. I know a video isn't much, nor even putting them in contact with investors at this point during the legal dumpster fire that's commenced, but just like the other videos, I wanted to give people's voices a platform. And I hope you guys share this video with those in the industry and let the information speak for itself.
Yeah, and you have. And you have. It was a great video, phenomenal video. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. Guys, make sure you go into it and actually give this man a like and a sub because he's truly incredible and he's doing God's work here. Making those silent voices heard is more important than anything. And, you know, more so, it would contribute a lot in the upcoming lawsuit because I heard they were unionizing and they're unionizing and actually making a lawsuit against Stevens. They're filing a lawsuit. So that is incredible. I actually like that a lot. I hope something would come out of it. At the very least, I hope they can get the money from the Steam Ultra Access shenaniganry, but I heard Gabe Newell actually secured some refund, so maybe they won't get the full amount, but maybe something out of it. I really hope so. That being said, I hope Steven would get his punishment. Like, he is... Oh, man. He needs some justice. Okay, we need some justice here, right? This man... He needs to pay for what he did to other people. He needs to pay for his shenaniganry and, like, scams and all of that garbage. Even if Ashes wasn't first intended to be a scam, it ended up being one 100%, and he needs to bring that money back to the people he actually owes. So I really hope that, you know, something would come out of it. I hope this entire endeavor would be fruitful, but I guess only time would tell. These things, they take years. You need to understand that. Legal battle between rich people, they don't resolve in an instant. They take years and years on end because what these type of people tend to do is they try to tire out the opposition. They basically go into battle of attrition. And because you are the poor person and you don't have money to pay for lawyers and the legal expenses and all that stuff, then you just end up setting it for a deal or maybe just lose the case entirely. But the good thing with the Ashes of Creation story is that filthy rich MLM guys are actually suing Steven. And they have a lot of money and a lot of time. So maybe something would come out of it. I just hope to be here one day and laugh about all of it. But for now, this would make do. I guess it is what it is. You know, it was a really great video. I already made it an hour long. Make sure to let me know what you think in the comments. There's so many new information here about that one employee, man, cracked me up. I'm still shocked about the private chef, though. That was something I did not expect to be real.